Ever watch an athlete and just wonder how they do what they do? The power, the grace, it's incredible. Well, what if I told you their bodies are speaking a kind of secret language? Today, we're going to decode that language. We're diving into the hidden framework of planes and axes.
Okay, let's start with this, a somersault. On the surface, it seems pretty simple, right? Just a basic forward or backward roll. But in the world of biomechanics, this is a super specific movement happening in a very precise direction. And that is our first piece of the puzzle.
Now check this out, a cartwheel. It's a totally different vibe from the somersault, isn't it? We're not moving forward or backward anymore. The motion is all sideways. Keep that in your back pocket because that direction, it's everything. And for our third major move, the spin. You know, like a discus thrower winding up or an ice skater in a pirouette. This is all about rotation, a twisting motion. So there we have it, forward and back, side to side, and twisting, the three basic building blocks of movement. So what gives? How do these three distinct movements relate to each other? Is there some kind of system that explains it all? Oh, you bet there is. And it all comes down to that hidden framework we talked about, planes and axes.
So, the first part of this framework is what we call planes. Now, the easiest way to get your head around this is to imagine we can slice the human body into different sections. Sounds a little weird, I know, but trust me on this one.
And this visual just nails it. Imagine three invisible sheets of glass, each one cutting through the body in a totally unique way. You can see they're even color-coded here. These are our three planes of movement.
First up, we've got the sagittal plane. That's the green one. This plane slices the body vertically, right down the middle, giving us a left half and a right half. Any movement that goes forward or backward, like walking, running, kicking a ball, that's all happening in the sagittal plane.
Next in red is the frontal plane. This one also cuts the body vertically, but this time it divides it into a front and a back section. This is the home of all sideways movements. Think about doing a jumping jack or a side lunge at the gym. That's pure frontal plane motion. And our final plane, the blue one, is the transverse plane. This is the only one that's horizontal. It cuts right across the waist, giving you a top half and a bottom half. So the key takeaway here? Any movement that involves twisting or rotating, well, that's happening in the transverse plane.
Okay, so we've got our planes, those invisible sheets of glass. But you don't just move in a plane, you move around a pivot point. And that's where axes come in. An axis is just an imaginary rod that our movement rotates around.
And hey, what do you know? There are three axes too. This table breaks them down perfectly. And honestly, these analogies are gold. You've got the frontal axis, which runs from hip to hip. The sagittal axis, which stabs through from front to back. And the vertical axis, running straight down from head to toe.
All right, now for the magic. This is where it all clicks together. See, planes and axes don't work alone. They have partners. For any movement to happen, it has to occur in one specific plane and around one specific axis. They're locked together in these, let's call them power pairs.
Let's look at our first power pair. Remember that somersault from the beginning? That's a forward and back movement, so we know it happens in the sagittal plane. And the pivot point it rotates around, that's the frontal axis, that hip-to-hip line.
And this right here just confirms it. To move forward or backward in the sagittal plane, you have to rotate around the frontal axis. That's the unbreakable rule that gives us a somersault. Simple as that. So what about our cartwheel? Well, that's a sideways move, so right away we know it has to be in the frontal plane. And the axis it rotates around? That's our sagittal axis, the one that stabs through the body. And there it is, our second rule, clear as day. Sideways movement in the frontal plane requires rotation around the sagittal axis. You starting to see the pattern here? Each plane has its one perfect axis partner. Which of course brings us to our final pair, the spin. We already established this is a rotational movement, so it has to be in the transverse plane. And its pivot point is that straight down the middle vertical axis. And that completes the set. To spin, to twist, to rotate in the transverse plane, you have to pivot around the vertical axis. So get this, every major athletic movement you can think of is just one of these three power pairs in action. All right, you've got the theory down. You know the three planes, the three axes, and how they pair up.
So, you think you can speak the language? Let's put that new knowledge to the test. Time for a quick quiz.
Okay, here's your first one. Think about a sprinter. Think about the way their arms and legs move. Is that motion primarily forward and back, sideways, or rotational? Which plane does that fall into? I'll give you a second to think.
And the answer is the sagittal plane. Yep, because running is all about that forward and backward motion. It happens in the plane that splits the body into left and right. Nice work if you got that one.
Okay, let's level up. This one's worth 2 marks. We are looking for the full power pair behind a cartwheel. We need the plane and we need the axis. Think back to what we just talked about. So, how'd you do? For the first mark, the plane is the frontal plane, because it's a sideways move. And for the second mark, the axis is the sagittal axis. That is our second power pair. If you nailed both of those, fantastic work. So there you have it. The secret code behind all human movement isn't so secret anymore, is it? You now have the framework to look at any athletic action, a tennis serve, a golf swing, a dive, and break it down. The only question left is, what are you going to analyze next?